Welcome to the National Women's Fitness Academy podcast. We're here to talk about women's health, female hormones, body image, and all things health and fitness.
Welcome back, guys, to the Women's Fitness Academy podcast. I am one of your hosts, Elin. I'm a female empowerment coach, and I specialize in binge eating, self-sabotage, and breaking that all-or-nothing mindset. Today, I'm here with someone that I have been dying to interview for so long now. I met her for the first time when she was in Bali with us for a retreat. And then I've done a binge eating workshop for her clients. And this has just been in the works for so long. So I'm so excited to have this girl on the podcast. You might already be following her because she has quite a name in the industry. Her name is Courtney. She's an online fitness trainer and she is the owner of Project Me Coaching. So Courtney, welcome to the podcast.
Hello, I'm excited to finally be here.
I am so excited to have you as well. Like, I've been wanting to interview you for so long, but I know like you're such a busy woman. You recently won your pro card, like you're competing, you have so many clients. Like, honestly, I think I do a lot, but when I look at your story, I'm like, whoa, like she never ever takes a day off.
I try to.
Busy girl. Well, let's get into it. For the listeners who don't know who you are, can you tell us a little bit about yourself, where you're from, how you got into the industry?
Well, I'm originally from Brisbane and I've lived on the Gold Coast for about 5 or 6 years now. And I've been a coach for 8 years now. Prior to that, I worked in a childcare, running a before and after school care, which I did love, but didn't want to stay there forever. And yeah, getting into the industry, I think like a lot of coaches, you kind of find a love for it through your own journey. And you just think, wow, I want to help other people. And then it just kind of falls into place. You just end up coaching. So yeah, I got into coaching from my own journey, which was just feels like years ago now. And yeah, I've recently won my pro card with WBFF. I've competed since 2015 and I tried for so long. I kept getting seconds and thirds, or less than that. And I just kept trying and finally got it. So it makes it, like to me, even more special just because I didn't give up. And yeah, I love traveling. I've spent a bit of time traveling this year and over the years, volunteered in places around the world. So that's another little side passion.
Love that. Yeah, and I remember when I saw your post that you had won your pro card, because I know how much it meant to you. Like, I actually got teared up. I was like, oh my god. Yes, I'm so happy for her. So well deserved.
I had a few messages of people saying they teared up, even just strangers, and it's so nice. And that's what I love about social media is people follow your journey along and your story, and you might not even know them personally, but you get so invested in other people's journeys, and supporting them.
Yeah, it's so beautiful. And yeah, I think it was amazing to see that you also shared like everything that you've gone through, because like I always say that I think the best teachers are the ones who've gone through it themselves and the ones who have actually struggled. Like if you just, slid in on a banana peel and just won your pro card for your first show, it's like, oh, well, she didn't really have to go through. Like, of course you'd have to do hard work, but I personally, if I wanted to compete in bodybuilding, I would rather go with a coach who has done so many shows and, tried everything to see like what it actually takes.
Yeah, I completely agree. Like I always, experience over anything. And it's definitely helped me with coaching too, I find. And yeah.
For sure. So one of the things that I wanted to talk to you about was your journey that you've had started opening up a little bit about on Instagram now, social media, with how you've struggled with your body image, with disordered eating in the past. And you mentioned as well that you got into fitness because it was something that you were really passionate about and that helped you. So can you tell us a little bit about like your background with that?
I feel like this is a long story.
Perfect. That's what podcasts are for.
There's so many ups and downs, but I guess, if we go way back, I was bullied throughout primary school and high school just for having like bigger legs. There was always remarks and just that really affected me. So that, you become self-conscious. And when I left high school, I started getting into training and learnt about macros. Actually, before that, I went through, the usual fad trends when you don't know much, just believing crazy stuff. But eventually I learned more about nutrition and seeing progress in myself, and you kind of get addicted to that, seeing the progress in your body, and you're like, wow, I've spent these years being bullied. My legs are leaner. This is great. And that's where sort of the passion for nutrition and training began. There was a period where I got way too obsessed with it. And I luckily snapped out of that pretty quick, but I love that I went through that because I'm so passionate about clients, not getting obsessed with, numbers and the process. That's good that I went through that. And then eventually I competed, and that was really great. Obviously, coming out of a show, so many people struggle with, gaining body fat back. So that was a bit of a struggle for me. But I got through it. I focused on strength training and building muscle, and I think that's really important after a show when you're seeing your body change, and you got to remind yourself that it's for healthy reasons. You can't stay comp lean. And then what else? Can't even remember. I did a few more shows over the years. There was this period where I basically prepped for like 2.5 years, and the last show I didn't plan on doing it, and I jumped into it thinking, you know what, let's just give it one more try. And throughout that prep, I just noticed, disordered eating starting to happen. And I just knew that I was heading down a really unhealthy way. And I tried to tell people around me, look, I think I need to pull out of this show. And they were just encouraging, like, no, don't give up. Come on, you can do it. And you kind of think, oh, I can't tell you what's really going on because it's hard to talk about those things. So I did that show. And then after that show, after all this time prepping, it was just too much, too long. And I just spiraled. And I've recently opened up about my eating disorder online. I've kind of said things here and there, but I finally did a post just to talk about it more because I think it's, I'm in a good place now to share, to help others. And yeah, I ended up with bulimia and just down that struggling path, binge eating. And it was just because of dieting for too long. And so that was a really hard and dark phase of my life. Eventually I slowly got out of that. I can go into more detail if you want to ask questions later, but over the years, after that, I did a powerlifting comp. I really tried to focus on what my body can do and how it performs and health, and that truly helped. And I guess that's what I'm passionate about with my clients is, training and nutrition, and it goes beyond how you look, and health is so important. So again, I hate that I went through that, but it makes me passionate to make sure other clients don't, like, no one goes down that path. And I try and pick up on little, if anything feels off with a client, I'm like, okay, well, I've been here, done that. Let's make sure we don't head down that path. And then I did my other preps, and I think, I was just so mindful to make sure that I didn't go down that path again. And they were all really successful and really great. And yeah. So that's a sort of rundown of everything.
Yeah, wow, what a journey. And I think it's very common, like way more common than people would like to think.
Yeah.
Coming out of a show, like I can so relate. Like I've only done one bodybuilding show my whole life, but that show, I remember coming out of it, like that's what really spiked my binge eating.
Yeah.
Like I was already binge eating before the show, but then the show was like kind of, I could use it as a way of controlling my food. But then as soon as I stopped, it was like bam, hit me like a ton of bricks. Like it just,
like people sort of use a show as like a band-aid, and I mean that like in the nicest way. You think, okay, this will fix things, but it just makes things worse. And yeah, I think as well, competing isn't for everyone, and I mean that in the nicest way. It's not that I don't think people can do it. It's just like it's hard, like it's not normal, and some, I think, personalities just don't suit it as well, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And not every sport is going to be for every single person, and just because it looks cool when you get on stage and the glitz and the glamour and all that stuff, like there's so much more that goes into it than people probably know. And I think it's really great to see now that there are a lot of bodybuilders like yourself who are speaking up about, you know what, this is what I went through after the show, and you need to be really careful with that aspect and have a coach. Because I think a lot of, I know when I did the comp, it was like kind of encouraged to have like a day or 2 days where you just eat whatever you want, eat as much as possible. And, you know, you see all the photos with the girls eating the cookies and the donuts and stuff backstage. And, you know, that's well, and that's great. But it just, when does it become like unhealthy?
Yeah, and that was definitely me. Like I truly love bodybuilding. I still love competing, and I'm glad that I had a really good prep after I went through that, or 2 preps after I went through that phase. But that last prep that I spiraled, all I cared about was the donuts backstage. All I cared about was the food. All I cared about was the list of restaurants I had to go to. Like I didn't give a shit about the show, and I just like, I was so food focused. And I definitely it wasn't healthy at all.
No. And unfortunately, I think this is something that gets very glamorized, and like people are like, oh, now I get to go to all these restaurants and eat all this food. And, you know, people who don't really know much about it, they're like, yeah, of course, like treat yourself, like eat a burger, you dieted for however long. And it's like, but that burger there's nothing wrong with that. And of course, like all foods, like no food is that bad that you can never really have it. But it's just so much more that goes into it than people see.
Like, and the last 2 preps, I didn't buy any goodies post show. I didn't have a list of restaurants. And I was so careful to have a really great mindset through the whole prep, but also beyond as well. You know, I wasn't thinking, okay, we're going to get to show day, we're going to try and win. I was like, okay, what's life look like after show? How do I want to feel like after show? So and I really try. I don't prep too many people. I don't actually love putting people through a prep because it's so unhealthy. I hate doing it. I mean, I love show day. I love seeing them on stage, but ask any of my clients, I'm so blunt and honest. I'm like, this is not healthy. I don't, you have to prove to me that you've got a great relationship with food before you even consider a comp day. I'm glad I have that knowledge to help others, because a part of me also is scared if you say no to a client prepping them, it's like, well, what other coach is going to just take their money and put them through it and not give a shit about them? And like I was like, maybe I'll just put them through the prep, in a healthy way eventually, rather than saying, no, I'm not prepping you. And then they end up worse off. But
and that's the hard thing with being a coach. Like I have a lot of girls come to me and they want to let go of tracking, and then we start working towards it, and then they're like, oh no, but I want to track. Okay, let's finish. I'm not going to do this program. I'm going to go with this macro tracking person. And It's like, well,
Yeah.
like you can't force someone to do anything. You can only give them the tools, and then it's up to them. Like if you tell your clients, you need to be in this mindset, this is what you should be thinking about, this is not healthy, this is healthy. And if they choose to look at that, have all the facts and be like, yeah, I know, but I want to get on stage, so I'm just going to go somewhere else then.
Yeah. And people just, don't understand the consequences of competing fully until they're in it sometimes. So I think it is good. Like that's another reason why I wanted to share. And I don't blame competing itself. It's just more so how long I prepped for and not taking a break, and bringing that awareness out to share, I think is really important.
Yeah, of course. And there's so much research that does show that if you are in a deficit for too long, like even if you don't even have any disordered eating behaviors going into it, it will make you more food focused.
Yeah,
that's just the reality of it. Like at the end of the day, your body is just trying to survive. And then unfortunately for some of us, it does affect how we feel about ourselves, and can bring out an eating disorder or something similar to that. But I wanted to talk about your bulimia and binge eating, and how did you know that you were struggling with this, and how did you then get out of it?
Well, during that last prep, I was just, overeating here. Like it started off with that, and then binges, and then I don't really know when the first time, like and I hope this podcast doesn't trigger anyone, and I don't want to go into too many details.
Put a trigger warning on it.
To be careful. But I don't remember why I started doing that or how it came about. And it was like a sense of control and guilt, I think, initially, and trying to like fix your mistake. And anyone listening, like it doesn't fix anything. It doesn't work like that. And once the comp was over, like I really didn't want to do the comp, but I did it, and I just spiraled out of control after the comp. And it just got so bad. Like obviously you become depressed as well. I woke up every day and I was like, oh, I'm awake. I don't want to do it. Like, this is so hard. And it's really a hard place to be. And I couldn't open up to my partner at the time, and my mum, like someone I trusted. I just struggled to get the words out. And then eventually I told them, and that was the best thing I could have done. So if anyone's struggling, make sure you tell a loved one, because it felt like a weight lifted, like it wasn't this dark secret that I was keeping. So that definitely helped. And I went and saw a doctor, and I didn't end up going to a psychologist, to be honest. And I'm not saying don't go to one, but this doctor met with me weekly. I had to go and see her weekly, just to touch base, and that was helpful. And I think just, I really love journaling, and I think it's important to not identify yourself as like, I'm a bulimic. I was like, no, I have this thing that I'm working through, and I'm going to overcome it. I think that's really important, and that's a lot of what I journaled about as well, and just thinking, okay, the future version of me, what she looked like. And so a lot of mindset work there. I really struggled to be alone, and just little things I did. I'd try and give my bank cards to people so I wouldn't be able to go to the shop, which absolutely sounds crazy, but that's where I was at. And then we actually had a trip to Europe booked, and I know everyone experiences these things differently. And this was the best thing that could have happened to me, because it was like I had this permission to eat. There was no restriction, and I was surrounded by my family the whole time. So I wasn't alone, and it was great. Like, I'm not saying to go book a trip to Europe to overcome your bulimia or your binge eating, but it truly helped, because it was just, you had that permission to eat. I always say I was supervised, but that's how it felt. I needed to be supervised. So that was really good. And we actually went on a cruise ship and had a buffet, and I embraced gaining some body fat because I just kept gaining body fat, and I focused on performance. So yeah, I think like for anyone listening, like just giving yourself that permission, not trying to diet. The bulimia, it kind of turned into a habit. And I know this sounds absolutely crazy, but it was more so, it was just an automatic response. And I really struggled to be full and satisfied. Like that was a trigger for me. And yeah, it sounds crazy. I've never opened up about this or talked about it, but that was my issue that I had to work through. You know, if I have a meal, just it's okay to be full. It's okay. So yeah, I worked through that. Home from Europe, I was very tempted to diet because I'd put on this body fat, and I knew as a coach, no, that's not the right thing to do. So I started training for a powerlifting comp. And that was the best thing ever because I was just so focused on performance and what my body can do, not what it looks like. And slowly but surely, things got better. But I sort of, would relapse here and there. And I just accepted, okay, you know what? This is a part of the journey. It's okay. And yeah, it's definitely something I teach my clients. And through this whole time as well, I was so embarrassed because I was a coach. And that's something the doctor said to me. She's like, you know what, this is going to make you a better coach. And I was thinking, no, this is so embarrassing. Like, I'm trying to look after these clients, yet here I am suffering with this. But I'm so grateful I went through that because I really do think it's made me such a great coach and understanding and relatable. And obviously, like I was saying before, you can sort of pick out little habits and just be aware of that with your clients. And I know like probably you and I have different views with tracking macros and whatnot, but I'm open to everyone's different opinions. But I did track my food after the Europe holiday, and I gave myself heaps of calories, and I gave myself a range. I didn't have set targets, and I found that really helpful. Just to go, you know what, you have the freedom to have this range. You can have whatever you want in your day. You don't have to go and binge eat, and that really truly helped me. And everyone's different though. Like I definitely have clients who I'm like, no, we're not tracking food. Like I think this is another option, and we'll do something different. But that did help me, and I looked at food as like fuel for my performance in the powerlifting comp. So yeah, sorry if I've talked too long.
No, that's great. That's great. There was so many things. So I was like, yes, I can resonate. There's so many like great things there. And I agree. Like I don't like. A lot of people think for some reason that I'm really against tracking, but
I think that.
No, I'm definitely not. I just think it's a tool in the toolbox, and it's not something that should be used forever, and it's definitely not for everyone. And if you're listening to this and you're like, I love tracking, like that's fucking awesome, great, good for you. But what happens if you have a day where you don't track your food?
Yeah,
you're gonna binge. Do you feel out of control? Does the thought of not tracking make you make you anxious? Like that's when it becomes a problem,
Yeah, with my clients, I really encourage non-track days, or I have this thing called love days, and that's their freedom to not track. And I try and teach, tracking versus not tracking. There should be no differences. You might indulge a little bit more here and there, as long as it's mindful and you're like, yeah, I want 2 desserts. Like if you mindfully have 2 desserts, like awesome, who cares? But yeah, I really encourage it. And if a client is like, oh no, I want to track every day, well, I'll say, you know what, this is even more of a reason to have a non-track day because you're scared to let it go. Or I used to put questions in the check-in and say, okay, what if my fitness power wasn't working today? Because it's happened. Would you freak out? And if it's just the deeper questions, it's like, oh, I actually would. It's like, okay, well, there's an issue there. We need to step away from tracking a little bit or not be too worried about it. But yeah, I so agree with you.
Yeah, no, I love that. And I think it's so great to see that coaches are doing that, because my fitness pal has been down, and
Yeah.
I remember I was tracking at the time, and I was like, oh my God, like freaked out, because I had a really unhealthy relationship with it. And I think that's when it becomes a problem, when people are using it as a band-aid to control their anxiety and to feel like they have some form of control in their life. And unfortunately, I think there's a lot of coaches, like you said, that you were a bit embarrassed about how you felt and how you acted, like, because you were a coach. But I think that a lot of coaches are doing that. They use tracking or meal plans or whatever, tool they use as a way to kind of mask their own insecurities and their own behaviors, so that they don't fall back to binge eating or whatever it is that they struggle with.
Yeah, definitely. And that's why I value what I went through, and taking breaks from tracking, and doing all the things that I promote for my clients, or making sure that I use my experiences and lessons to help my clients. And even like coming out of my last prep, as you know, like coming out of a show, your metabolism's down regulated, you're not in the healthiest place. I still tracked I went traveling like Vietnam and Bali. I didn't even see you in Bali, which
I know. Next time.
And I still tracked, because coming out of a show, it is important. And like, I wanted to, I have food freedom around tracking. It was all fine, but I didn't weigh a single piece of food. I didn't cook a single meal. Everything was takeout. Sometimes I'd order things and it'd be covered in oil unexpectedly. I was just like, whatever, like, yum, oil tastes great, covered in your salad. And I was it was really beautiful to me, because of my past experience. And I try and tell my clients often, I'm like, look, like, I didn't weigh a single thing, and you can eventually get to this place too. Like, tracking's just a tool, and eventually you can stop weighing all the food and just have that flexibility. So I was really glad that I did that and just had complete flexibility.
Yeah, 100%. And I like that what you said about that you were tracking, but back in a very loose kind of way. And not like, this is the specific target I need to hit every single day. Because it definitely can be beneficial. Like, I have a girl who's binge eating at the moment, and she's tracking her calories just to make sure she's eating enough food and not under eating. And that's perfect. Like, when you use it in that way, I think there's nothing wrong with it. I think can be a really good tool. I wanted to also talk about how you said that you didn't identify yourself as a bulimic. I think that is so important. And I say this all the time to my girls, that you are not a binge eater. You might binge eat, but that's not who you are. And I love what you said about that you were like writing down how you wanted to feel, and like, how would that girl eat, and how would she feel, and who would she be, what would she look like? How did you start doing that? Like, was that something that you were like, oh, I'm gonna do this, or did someone that doctor did they help you with that?
No, I don't know. I think, I've always journaled my whole life, and sort of really been interested in all the mindset kind of things. I haven't done NLP training or anything like that, but I guess maybe I did listen to some podcasts on it or something. Maybe I have picked it up from someone. I can't remember. It was so long ago. But I'm always like, I love vision boards. I love manifesting, all of that. So I don't know if that's helped, just thinking, okay, who's this future version of me? She's not a bulimic. That means I'm not a bulimic. Like, and I believe, like, your words are so powerful. Like, I always pull clients up on it. Like, if they say, I can't even think of an example. Like, I just overeat all the time, or I'm just whatever it may be. It's like, no, like, your words are powerful. Like, if you say I'm a bulimic or I'm a binge eater, you're putting that belief into existence. Like, you're always going to believe, and you're always going to show up as that person. Like, if you think, okay, no, I'm just dealing with this right now, it's this problem outside of you that you're working through, if that makes sense. But yeah, I don't know where I picked it up from.
Well, I think that when you are, or at least I hope that people who are in the space that we are, listen to a lot of podcasts and read a lot of books and talk to a lot of people who have, that we can get inspired by. And I think that if you just have that open mind, you can learn something from anyone.
Yeah, definitely. And I think as like if anyone's listening that is recovering or I don't know how you help your girls as well. I think it's really important to take all the different stories you listen to, opinions and advice, and piece it together to find what works for you, or like trial and error. I think that's really important, rather than just going like, here's a binge eating book and read that and you'll be cured. It's like, okay, well, read it, but take bits and pieces, and then go and read another book and form your own opinion or advice.
Yeah, for sure. There is no one size fits all when it comes to this space. Like what works, what worked for me is probably not going to work for you. And I think that's why it's so important to have a coach and work with a professional when you are going through, when you're doing any kind of change in your life that it's a little bit scary, because even if it's weight loss, you might look at someone's diet and, okay, well, she ate that, she lost 20 kilos. Awesome. Well, I'm going to eat exactly the same. Like, you're not going to be the same person. Like, you're not going to have the same taste. You're not going to move as much. Your body's not going to react the same way. So definitely agree with you on that. I think that's very important. And like you can learn so much like from free stuff, like from podcasts and books and posts on Instagram or whatever, but nothing will ever replace having that coach in your corner.
Yeah, I agree. Like the one-on-one support, just to give you that different perspective, or to put your trust into, to tell things and have someone in your corner. Like I always say to my clients, I'm like, you've hired me to help you get from A to B. Like, you're my boss. Like, how can I support you? How can I help you? So one-on-one coaching is just, for anything, like you said, for any aspect of life, is so valuable.
Yeah, absolutely. So with the prep that you did after the bodybuilding, the prep that you did after when you recovered from bulimia and binge eating, were you nervous going into it that you might fall back to those old habits?
100%. I was so nervous. And like for me, like if a client came to me, I would likely not prep them. And I would be like, oh no, this is too risky. But I just think everyone's different, but the prep that really spiraled me out, I can see why it did. I was unhappy in my life at that time, just with other aspects in my life. I didn't feel fulfilled. That's probably, food was comfort and love. And too many shows after the other. So this prep, it was like, okay, well, I've spent time off. I've spent time eating all the food to build and have, spent time at a higher body fat. I felt ready. And I know journaling isn't for everyone, but journaling was so important to me. And I made sure that I did that every day. And it wasn't like, I'm going to win and I'm going to have the best prep. It was like, I want to win, but I'm going to come out of this show proud. I'm going to come out of this show still, following my core values. I was thinking beyond the show, the whole prep, if that makes sense. And I think that's where people become lost. They're so excited about this event and end date and, oh my gosh, and then show's over. Then what? Like they haven't even thought about that. They haven't visualized that. They haven't thought about that future version of themselves. And I think that really did help me. And like I love training and seeing the body change, and I was in such a happier place in my life compared to the other. And so I think I knew that I would be okay.
Yeah, no, that's great. And what was it that you said? It was so good. Oh, complete mind blank here. But no, that's it. It was that you went into the show and you were focusing on what you wanted to do after the show. And I fucking love that so much, because with any competition, you cannot control the other people around you.
Yeah.
It's like, I remember my first ever CrossFit competition, I went in with the mindset of I'm going to win. I'm going to show everyone that I'm the best here. And then when that didn't happen, I remember I was feeling so terrible about myself. Like, even though I had put in my best effort for that day, I was like, well, how are they better than me? Like, it was awful. Like, I felt so terrible. And I think that is so common with people going into competitions, and you know, it's all well and good to like visualize the crown and the sash or whatever it is that they give you. That's great, do that, but it's also like, what happens after the comp? Because that's not the end.
The
pit stop.
I know. And even just like going into a dieting phase, like people need to go, okay, well, what's happening after the diet? Because you can't just stop and go back to your old habits. Like, where do you want to go after the diet? But yeah, I think it's so important. And when I did I did 2 shows after I was like recovered, and the show after that, I was tempted not to do it because I was scared of not winning, because it was my 11th show competing and I still had never won. And I was just like, I'm going to be devastated if I don't win. Like, I can't compete. And then I thought, you know what, when I'm a little 80-year-old lady, she's going to look back and be like, just who cares if you don't win? You just give it one more shot. And that's what I did it for. And I just thought, you know what, if I don't win, it's okay. So yeah, that helped me. But luckily I won.
yeah, exactly. And I always say this to my girls, like, you've been okay every single time that you haven't gotten what you wanted in the past. You're going to be okay now as well. But you want to at least be able to look back and see, I gave it everything I had. Yeah,
you don't want to have what ifs. Like,
honestly, that is like one of my biggest mottos, like rather an oops than a what if.
I don't want to have regrets and just do all the things.
Exactly. Like, the worst thing that happens is that you don't get the crown, but at least, well, then you learn something and then you move on. Like, you never actually fail. You either win or you learn.
Yeah. And you gotta, like, when it comes to competing too, like, do it, you gotta love the process. I think that's where people go wrong too. Like, because if you love the process, that's going to help you after the whole prep too, because you have to continue the process. Like, you have to continue the habits and the lifestyle and reverse yourself out of there. So and when people just go, I just love show day, and they dread it's like, well, you're not doing it for the right reasons, you know. You've got to enjoy the journey.
For sure, because what the show day is one day out of however many days you're prepping for. So if you're only enjoying that one day, you're in for a pretty miserable year. Well, Courtney, what is going on for you in the future? Are you doing any more traveling? Are you not competing anymore? Like, what's the plans for you, or doing anything new with your business?
I don't know. I've just turned 30 and I still feel a little bit lost. I'm working on just improving my business and building it. And like have a lot of goals there. I'm just trying to help people as best as I can. Traveling, I just love traveling. I would love to travel some more. But again, you know, put some things in place with the business so then I can travel. And competing, I feel like I haven't quite finished that love for competing yet. Like, I would love to compete again, but I'll see how that goes. And if I don't compete, like, I'm so satisfied with how I went. So yeah, I'll see how I go. I would love to do another powerlifting comp. I just want to do all the things.
Amazing. Yeah, I think it's so cool to see that so many bodybuilders are now doing powerlifting comps, and that you are actually strong. It's not just, you know, get a little bit of a booty pump in the gym. Like, you guys are strong as fuck.
I would love to try CrossFit again. That would be fun.
Ooh, try it. It is really fun. It's a bit you can get a lot of injuries, I have noticed over the years, but it's just my own competitive mindset of not listening to my body while I'm training. But we're getting there. Maybe the year maybe when we're in our 30s we'll learn.
It's
hard. Well, Courtney, it's been so nice to have you on the podcast. Before we go, do you have anything coming up that the listeners can sign up to? Are you taking on new clients? Do you have any challenges or anything coming up?
No challenges. We have like an online learning portal which has been added but yeah, not too much coming up. Would love to do a retreat and some more girls' weekends next year for Project Me Girls. So I'll see how that goes. Might come to Bali and get you to come speak at one of the retreats. But that would be actually, that's a goal of mine. That's a dream that I have. So yeah, but yeah, get in touch.
Yeah, absolutely. I would love to help you facilitate a retreat here. That would be absolutely amazing.
Yay.
Right, guys, you know the drill by now, but I'm going to tell you anyway. Please make sure that you do take a screenshot of this episode if you liked it. You post it on your stories, you tag myself, tag Courtney, tag Women's Fitness Academy. Tell us like if you could resonate with her story, if there was anything that stood out for you in the podcast, what else you would like to learn. We love to actually get a face to who's listening and be able to connect and say thank you. So it really means the world to us when you do that. But yeah, that was everything for this week. I will see you all next week. And Courtney, thank you again so much for coming on. Bye, everyone.